Tyrannosaur skeletons often look like archives of years of war. But all of that is nothing compared to one specimen. Her name was Victoria. She is one of the most complete Tyrannosaurus rex skeletons ever discovered. Nearly 200 bones preserved together, without random gaps. For paleontologists, a dream. For the viewer, pure awe. Let's start with the skull. On the lower jaw, you can see rounded holes and deep depressions, not marks of time and not damage after death. These are bites from another tyrannosaur. The thick, conical teeth of T-Rex did not slice like blades, they literally pressed into bone, leaving punctures and crushing dents that are disturbing even to look at. And as if that were not enough, a severe infection developed on top of the injury. One of the most dangerous complications for large dinosaurs, capable of slowly killing from the inside. And that was not all. Several cervical vertebrae in Victoria are fused together. This happens only when the neck has been broken or severely injured. Her spine literally welded itself back together at the cost of flexibility and with constant pain. And on the right shoulder, massive bony growths are visible, evidence that a muscle was torn away from the bone. For a predator that depends on every explosive movement of its body during an attack, such an injury is almost a death sentence. In 2018 in Florida, biologists documented an American alligator whose upper jaw was shattered by a motorboat, leaving it unable to close its mouth and facing starvation without surgical stabilization and months of hand feeding. But Victoria survived all her injuries on her own. That is why this case is nearly impossible to explain. She endured for so long purely through resilience. But there is a story that shocked me even more. Allosaurus named Big Al is not a story about a few injuries. It is a story about 19. His skeleton shows broken ribs, and not just once. A puncture in the shoulder, a damaged hand, signs of severe inflammation in the jaw, fused vertebrae, and serious back injuries. And most importantly, the majority of these wounds show clear signs of healing. That means he did not collapse and disappear right away. But there was one injury that overrode everything else: a broken left foot. It sounds almost trivial until you realize that for a predator like this, the foot meant balance, body control, and speed. Without it, you cannot catch prey, you cannot escape, and you cannot survive the explosive push of an attack. In the modern world, we understand very well what the loss of a foot means for a large land animal. In 2006, in a national park in Zambia, a young elephant named Moshe stepped on an old anti-personnel landmine left over from the war, which completely destroyed one of her front feet. For an elephant weighing over 2 tons, this is a catastrophe. Weight distribution collapses, joints degrade rapidly, and the body literally begins to break itself during movement. Veterinarians working together with engineers created the world's first functional elephant foot prosthesis for Moshe. She was able to walk again, but only under constant supervision, because without assistance, such an injury is fatal for a large animal. Now let's return to Big Al. Allosaurus was a large and highly active predator of the Jurassic period, roughly 39 feet long, about 11 feet tall, and weighing up to 4,400 pounds. His life was built on constant risk because large herbivores had horns, claws, and enormous mass and could easily cripple even the attacker. And while in movies, thanks to Steven Spielberg, such predators are shown as unstoppable monsters, in reality they were simply hunters who had to secure meat every single day. There were no supermarkets back then. And here's the difference that cuts deep. Moshe had a prosthesis, people, and rehabilitation. Big Al had none of that. Not the most important thing, help. He endured 19 serious injuries and did not give up immediately, but without treatment, without support, and without any miracle technology, even extreme resilience eventually turns against you. And this was only one damaged limb. Now imagine a creature that lost all 4. This phytosaur ranks among the most pathological Triassic finds for one simple reason. Not a single one of its limbs remained uninjured. It genuinely looks horrific. This was a giant phytosaur, a semi-aquatic predator of the late Triassic and a close relative of crocodilians. A giant phytosaur reached up to 39 feet in length, around 6 feet in height, and weighed roughly 6,600 pounds, about the size of a pickup truck with a trailer. Phytosaurs dominated river systems, swamps, and floodplains, regularly hauled themselves onto land, moved between bodies of water, and hunted, which meant that the ability to move properly on land was absolutely critical for them. The second thing that stunned paleontologists was the humerus, which was covered in massive bony growths. Such growths appear only when the body spends a long time trying to patch a damaged bone. These are clear signs of healing after severe injuries that the animal not only survived but carried for months. The ulna is deformed. Both femora and fibulae show traces of fractures, chronic infections, and repeated healing. Even the small bones of the feet are affected. This combination of injuries could not have resulted from a single incident. It represents a series of severe traumas sustained at different times, when bones began to heal only to break again. It is hard to imagine what daily life was like for this animal, living with constant pain in every limb. For most terrestrial animals, injuries like these would mean an immediate end. That is why this skeleton is so unique, in the sheer horror of the situation. Yes, even large and terrifying prehistoric predators could be vulnerable too. What the hell happened to this dinosaur? Part of the bone is simply gone. This looks like real horror. The right side of this Edmontosaurus skull is destroyed as if it were crushed by a hydraulic press. Where the eye should be, there is nothing but emptiness. The damage cuts far too deep into the skull, almost reaching the brain, and I think you already know whose signature this is. Yes, Tyrannosaurus rex. The thick, conical teeth of this predator, with a bite force of around 57,000 newtons, were designed not for slicing, but for literally crushing bone. A bite to the head with that kind of power usually meant only one thing: instant death. But the impossible happened. This Edmontosaurus survived. The edges of the wound are smoothed, and new bone tissue is clearly visible around it. That means the body actually began healing the skull. According to scientists, the animal may have lived for months after the attack, possibly even years. But how, when losing part of the skull would have meant not only unbearable pain, but also severe problems with orientation and coordination? And this is where social bonds played a key role. Its survival story was most likely tied to help from its own kind. Not in the sense that someone brought it food, but in something far more important. The injured individual was not abandoned. The herd may have moved more slowly, stayed closer together, guided it into safer areas with softer vegetation, and kept the wounded animal near the center of the group, where the chances of being snatched by a predator from the edge were far lower. Take a look at this skull. The front part of the snout is simply gone. This is the skull of a killer, a mosasaur, one of the top marine predators of the Cretaceous period. Members of this group could reach up to 56 feet in length and weigh as much as 33,000 pounds, making them the equivalent of a mid-size yacht. Powerful jaws, conical teeth, the ability to swallow large prey whole, everything about this anatomy was built for killing, which makes the question even more disturbing. Who could have attacked it? The front of the snout is completely destroyed. The lower jaw is deformed, a tooth is lodged in the bone, and around the damage you can see smoothed edges, bone remodeling, and signs of inflammation. This detail is critical. Such changes appear only if the animal survived after the injury. So the strike was not instantly fatal. So who did that tooth belong to? Another mosasaur. Similar cases are well documented in the fossil record. Mosasaurs frequently attacked their own kind, and bite marks on skulls and jaws regularly confirm this. In this case, the blow landed directly on the snout, the zone responsible for sensory input, prey capture, and control of the hunt. And here, an even more serious question arises. How did it survive at all? From an anatomical perspective, this is almost a death sentence. Losing part of the snout means impaired prey capture, disorientation, and constant inflammation of exposed bone. But the mosasaur had one advantage that terrestrial predators did not. Water reduced the load on the body, and its feeding strategy did not require chewing, only swallowing. Even severely injured, it could scavenge soft or already dead prey and keep moving. This was not a full predator's life. It was existence with an anatomical loss, balanced on the very edge of what was possible. But it lasted long enough for the bone to remodel, and that is exactly what makes this skull exceptional for science. In the modern world, injuries like this are sometimes survivable only with human intervention. In 2016 in California, an 8-month-old Rottweiler named Ziba was hit by a car with such force that her skull and jaw were literally crushed. Veterinarians documented multiple fractures, severe brain swelling, and critical oxygen deprivation, injuries that are normally considered incompatible with life. A team of specialists at the University of California, Davis performed a 5-hour reconstructive surgery, rebuilding the shape of her skull and jaw using titanium mini plates and screws. In the weeks that followed, the bones began to heal correctly, and Ziba relearned how to eat and use her jaw again. The mosasaur had no surgeons, no pain relief, and no care. It survived solely thanks to the specifics of its anatomy and its environment. And this skull is direct proof that even for an apex ocean predator, the line between life and death could sometimes rest on millimeters of bone. But this story is far more serious. This is no longer a nature documentary, this is horror. This specimen belongs to Pachyrhinosaurus, a large, herd-living herbivorous dinosaur of the late Cretaceous, which lived in what is now Alaska and Canada roughly 72 to 69 million years ago. And now, look at what happened to it. The front part of the snout is destroyed. The bony pad is partially missing. The fracture edges are irregular, with clear signs of acute trauma. This was a powerful impact that literally tore away part of the face. Pachyrhinosaurus grew up to 26 feet in length, around 7 feet in height, and weighed as much as 8,800 pounds, roughly the size of a large cargo van. But the key feature was not its size, it was the snout. Instead of a long horn like Triceratops, it had a massive bony pad on its nose, up to 10 inches thick. This was not just bone, it was riddled with blood vessels and nerves, highly sensitive to touch and impact. This horn shield was used for display, for shoving matches between individuals, and for protection during clashes. The nature of the injury points to a strong blunt force impact. The most likely scenarios are a collision with a large predator, such as Tyrannosaurus rex, or an extremely violent intraspecific fight with another Pachyrhinosaurus, where the blow landed at full force. This was not a bite, there are no tooth marks. This was a single, mechanical, devastating strike. Unlike the other stories in this video, this Pachyrhinosaurus most likely did not survive. There are no signs of proper healing here. The facial trauma was simply too severe. The animal died instantly. But here is the twist. All similar cases involving injured animals today, every single one of them, happened because of humans. So it is unclear whether we would truly have been useful to them at all, or whether we could even explain that we wanted to help faster than we would be swallowed. And that leads to one final question. What was life like for prehistoric humans living among horrors like these? This skeleton looks as if life tried to break this person, more than once. This is a Neanderthal, known as Shanidar I, discovered in Shanidar Cave in what is now Iraq. He lived around 65,000 years ago, stood about 5 feet 5 inches tall, shorter than the modern average male, and weighed roughly 155 to 176 pounds. On the surface, an ordinary Stone Age human, but his bones tell a very different story. Let's start with the skull. The left eye socket is completely destroyed. This is not a disease and not post-mortem damage. It is the result of a powerful blow to the face that shattered the bones around the eye and penetrated the brain case. He was blinded in one eye. More than that, the injury affected regions of the brain linked to motor control and sensory processing. Nearby, there are pathological bone overgrowths in the ear region that almost completely block the auditory canal. He was likely partially deaf. Now look at the arm. The right upper limb is dramatically different from the left. The forearm bones are deformed, muscle attachment sites are smoothed, clear signs of long-term atrophy. Below the elbow, the arm essentially did not function, and it may even have been lost after a severe injury. For a Paleolithic human, this meant one thing. He could not hunt, make tools, or properly defend himself. The legs were not in better shape either. Several fractures healed incorrectly, and the joints show clear signs of degeneration. His gait was impaired, and movement was painful. On top of that, he suffered from severe degenerative arthritis of the spine, causing constant pain. All of this was not the result of a single accident. It was a series of injuries and illnesses acquired at different stages of life. Some may have been inflicted by large predators of the time, cave lions, hyenas, saber-toothed cats, or during hunts of large prey. Other injuries could have resulted from falls, interpersonal violence, or cave collapses. But the key point is this: he survived all of them. Scientists estimate that Shanidar I lived for decades after sustaining these injuries and died at an age that, for that time, was considered deep old age, around 40 to 45 years. That means only one thing. He was not alone with these problems. Someone brought him food. Someone shared their catch. Someone stayed with him when he could not move. This skeleton is direct evidence that tens of thousands of years ago, humans survived not because of physical strength, but because of other people. And after all the monsters in this video, we began and ended with stories where survival was made possible only thanks to compassion. That's all for today, but these are far from all the brutal injuries humanity has studied. Let me know in the comments which injuries shocked you the most. Support with a like, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the DinoVerse.